I wanted to make some Kirby copy abilities, and to start that, I get some pink, red, and slightly darker pink. I split the pink into 5 segments to make 5 Kirbys, and then I roll them all into balls, and then roll those balls into having the arms. I squish the malformed spheres back into spheres, and then make the arms more spherical. After I do that, I can position the arms into the proper position, and then, well, just kind of create the legs, or the feet or shoes or whatever. These are just balls that are made slightly oblong, and then just attached to the bottom half of the body in the proper position that they need to be to position them into whatever position. After that, I add 2 black ovals onto the head, and then I add some eyebrows. The eyebrows should probably be added last, like I do later, but at this point it's the first one, so I make some mistakes. Then I have 2 blue half moons on the bottom part of the eyes, and white pupils on the top. After that, I can add in a mouth, which is basically just poked in a small dot, and then I can add the little cheek highlights, the little blush, and after that I add a bandage with some dark tan and some light tan in the center. After this, I make a wire armature for a yo-yo string. After that, I add said yo-yo string onto that armature, and then I make a yo-yo. Add some red color clay to the top part, and sandwich 2 balls of it together in order to make a yo-yo shape. After that, I add a yellow sheet to both sides, and once I have the yellow circular sheet, I add a star, a white star. This is just shaped like a star, and then added inside of the hand. Just push right in there. After that, this is positioned so that this thing will never fall, and then I add some orangish red streaks of light, just kind of caressing off of that, or it could be fire, who knows. After that, I add the purple backwards cap with just some purple, and then an indent in the front to make the little size adjust thing. I also bulk up the purple to make sure that it is the proper size that it needs to properly be, and then I add some amber yellowish details, one in that little gap, and then a little dot up top, and then I section this out into 8ths, except for one where the cap part of it goes, and then in all of those gaps I put light purple, little strings as if it was stitching like the actual design had. And then I add the brim of the hat on the back where I didn't put one of those little gaps. Then I indent the side of it to make it look, I don't know, and it's done. And on to the next one, which is... I'm not telling you. I do the same beginning parts, just making a circle with more circles off of that. Except now I push the circles forward and flatten it to the ground. This is one of the 2 copy abilities that I already made within this, but it's a completely different style, so I make the legs and attach them to the back. Once these 2 feet get attached to the back, I poke in a small little mouth and then add some closed eyelids. After the closed eyelids are of course the blush with the slightly darker pink that gets somewhat blended into the rest of the face, well, mostly just flattened. After that, I bake it and add a little cap thingy of teal. Then I flatten it backwards and just, then I cover the bottom part where it meets with the head in a light yellow. Then I flatten all of this out in order to make it a little bit flatter, and then I just flatten the hat thing again, and just shape it out until I think it looks nice, and add a ball of yellow on the back. After that, I flatten a bunch of balls of yellow, and add that all around the little hat. I think I only had 6, in all the positions where I think it would go. And once I have that, this one is done as well. The next one is the next one, and I just start with the same exact process again, except now both of the arms are facing directly downwards. I again shape them to become more spherical, and then I push the 2 hands, arms, thingies together, and then I add the feet. The feet this time actually go right next to the arms, directly under them and to the side. After that, I add the black ovals as the eyes, and then the blue half moons, followed by the white pupils. This time I actually add the eyebrows last, like I suggested doing the first time, so that the white pupils can actually be covered by some black. After that, I add a little dot for the mouth, and do the two blushes on the cheek, and flatten them on the face. After this, I make a dark brownish ochre into a little barrel shape, and add red flat circles on both sides. After that, I add a yellow star, and I add a gray worm around both sides of the hammer in order to make it look more like a hammer, or, well, the hammer. Once I have this on both sides, I flatten them out slightly, and then I make the design right at the stick, which is just a little lump on the top, and then a metal wire on the bottom in order to properly support Kirby's entire weight, followed by the ochre, and then I push that on top of there, and then I make two worms of blue and whitish gray, and I wrap that around Kirby's head in order to make the hat that the copy ability has. Then I add two small strands coming out of the back, and I stick it up for the first time, and I think this looks a lot better than the design I ended up going with, which I just add a little support on and make it a little bit shorter, because that's all I thought I could support. Next one is the sword one, which was the first one that I've made. Same beginning as always, making the hands in a bunch circular. Having one hand sticking down and one hand sticking up is slightly different, but I also add the legs, feet, I don't know, in a similar position to as the normal sword pose, except then I change it up slightly to have one of the feet flat, have the black ovular eyes, followed by the blue half moons, crescent moons, then the white pupils, followed by no eyebrows this time, and a more indented mouth overall. This mouth is a lot larger than all of the other ones, and I add a little tongue. I then add the blush and flatten that again, and once I have that, I have my base Kirby, and can make a sword, which is just a bunch of blue, then a blue oval, then some cones that are slightly curved on the oval, then some orange gems on both sides of the oval, and a light bluish gray sword actual blade. Then I make it look more like the blade is supposed to by pinching and poking at it, and then I stick it in the hand so that it can get baked, hardened, and not messed up. Then I add a similar hat to the Sleep Kirby, except this time it is a much darker green, and it's more line-ish, and then I shape it to the shape that I saw it to be shaped. I just position the shape, moving all of the clay to where I think it looks best, and then I wrap a darker yellow line around the base of the hat where it meets with the Kirby, and flatten that. Then I add a yellow ball to the top of the hat, and it's done. Now it's time for the final one, which is Fight Kirby. I start this the same way as I do for all of them, except the hands are slightly more up than they have been for the rest of them. I then add the feet, except this is only supported by one of them. The other one is off in the air kicking, and Kirby is almost completely on his side here. Then I have the black eye oval-ish thingies, followed by the blue crescent moons, followed by the white pupils that are oval-ish colors, and this time I go back adding the eyebrows last. After this I add I add more eyebrows. After this, I add the mouth, which is a black frowny face, which I probably should have indented, but that's for next time. And I add the blush, same way I've done for the rest of them. Now, here's where I probably should have baked it, but I didn't, and I instead added a red worm around the entire thing, and then flattened it and added a little dot as a knot, and then two little worms coming out of the back to make it look like it was tied together. After this, I add a small little star, and it is done. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video. If you want to see more, like and subscribe. And if you want to see something specific in the future, leave it in the comments below.